Hello and welcome to today's Media Associates International, or MAI, webinar. Today's webinar is entitled Empowering Christian Publishing in the MENA Region, Overcoming Challenges and Seizing Opportunities. An AI caption translation of this webinar is available by clicking on the Show Captions button on the bottom of your screen and then choosing your preferred language. My name is Heather Pubels. I am the president and CEO of MAI. MAI is a global network that exists to equip, encourage, and connect global Christian writers, editors, and publishers as they create life-transforming materials in their heart language and local context. In collaboration with our community, we hope to see these publications strengthen the church and impact society. In today's one-hour webinar, Dr. Sandra El Hajj will share the multifaceted challenges and potential strategies for her as a Lebanese Christian publisher serving in the often volatile MENA, or Middle East North Africa region. You may find that these lessons that she's learned in the Middle East apply to Christian publishing in your location or other challenging places around the world. Sandra is the Publishing and Communications Manager of Dar Manhal El Hayat Publishing House, a ministry of LSESD, now called Thimar, based in Beirut, Lebanon. She has a PhD in Translation Studies, Language and Communication Sciences from the Lebanese University, and 17 years of experience in translation and content writing. She is passionate about internal ecotourism, traveling, leading worship, reading, and writing. Sandra shares her music videos and spiritual reflections at life.ofpraise on Instagram and A Life of Praise by Sandra Boz on YouTube. Sandra, can you tell us about a current project that you're working on?
Hello, Heather. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, of course. Well, we are excited to be working on this children's Bible.
Yeah, cool.
So it's called The Biggest Story Bible Storybook by Crossway Publishers. And the text is written by Kevin DeYoung, a very well-known scholar, and illustrated by Don Clark. So it's been an exciting journey. We've been working on a cultural adaptation, actually, of this re-narration of the whole Bible story from Genesis to Revelation, because it's a very creative text using puns, wordplay, humor, cultural idioms. So we have been working on this Bible in Arabic, of course, in a language to be understood by all Arab countries. So it's been a challenge, but it's been very rewarding and exciting, and it's to be released very soon.
Thank you for sharing about that. What an exciting project. That's fantastic. We also have a number of people who have signed up to come today. We have 92 people from 33 countries who have registered, and we'd like to welcome our first-time attenders. So if you're a first-time attender, can you please click under the reactions button, the raise hand button, so we can see who you all are. And let's take a look at that. Yep, we have four new attenders. Well, it's great. Five. Okay, great to have you here. Welcome. Glad to have you with us today for the webinar. Please remember, you can go ahead and put your hands down if you haven't already. Please remember to put your comments and questions in the chat as you think of them. I'll be monitoring that for us today, and we'll get to as many of them as we can during the question and answer time at the end of the presentation. So Sandra, it's great to have you here with us today, and welcome. You can go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you, Heather. So again, hello everyone. My name is Sandra and I serve as the manager of Dar Manhal Al Hayat, a Christian publishing house based in Lebanon and serving the Middle East and North Africa region. We publish, distribute, and bring to life a wide range of Christian and educational resources for the church, Christian organizations, and the wider community throughout the Arab world. I'm honored to work with and serve a wide array of readers across the Middle East. Well, Dar Manhal Al Hayat, which stands for Source of Life, is a publishing ministry that operates, as Heather said, under Thimar, which is a Lebanese non-profit organization that seeks to strengthen the witness of the church in the Arab world through inclusive education, community development, and church discipleship. Dar Manhal's mission is to proclaim Christ, equip the church, and encourage gospel-shaped living amongst Arabic-speaking communities through relevant Christian and education and resources. With that, our vision is to see a transformed Arab world by promoting a holistic understanding of the gospel. Our publishing principles revolve around faithfulness to Scripture, edification of the church, excellence in quality, and relevance to the community. Our categories are study Bibles, children's story and activity books, Christian living books, of course, theological academic textbooks in partnership with our seminary, and general education books. As you might know, Christian publishing is marked by both challenges and opportunity, especially in our region, where political, economic, and sociocultural problems inform and guide our daily life. If you take a look at this map, the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, includes over 20 countries, spanning from Morocco in the west and Iran in the east. It is home to diverse cultures, backgrounds, religious traditions. Arabic is the primary language, of course, with the dialect changing from one country and one region to another. It is predominantly a Muslim population with Christian minorities and other confessions. Interfaith dynamics vary across countries, influencing openness to Christian content. Over 400 million people, which is a significant portion, are under the age of 30. We have oil-rich nations with wealth and modern infrastructure, like the Gulf countries, for example, and conflict-affected nations struggling with poverty and instability, like Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, etc. We have been struggling with political unrest, displacement, and humanitarian crises forever. As a consequence, economic hardships always impact education, healthcare, and access to resources. As we zoom in on Lebanon, we can't help but notice and talk about Lebanon's worsening humanitarian crisis. Specifically, since 2019, Lebanon has been through multiple crises, still driven by the aftermath of the civil war that lasted for 15 years and ended in 1990. Large civil groups took to the streets in 2019, calling for a dissolvement of the political body that is marked with sectorial divisions. After long weeks of road closures, many businesses closed their doors, employees lost their jobs, and the devaluation of the Lebanese currency kickstarted. Since then, the ongoing economic crisis has placed many families in poverty and many children out of school. The effects of this crisis were aggravated by the Beirut port blast in 2020, which I'm going to talk about a bit, the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown that was already ongoing, the presidential void, the absence of a government body, and the current war with Israel. It is important to note that on August 4, 2020, a date we will never forget, a large amount of ammonium nitrate stored at the port of Beirut in the capital city of Lebanon exploded, causing at least 218 deaths, 7,000 injuries, and $15 billion in property damage, as well as leaving an estimated 300,000 people homeless. A cargo of 2,750 tons of the substance had been stored in a warehouse without proper safety measures for the previous 6 years after having been confiscated by Lebanese authorities. A fire in the same warehouse preceded the explosion. This is just to give you a small example of these compounding crises. It's not small, it's actually very big, but it has been ongoing on and on. The blast was so powerful that it was felt throughout Lebanon, Turkey, Syria, Palestine, Jordan, Israel, parts of Europe. It was even heard in Cyprus, more than 240 kilometers away. It was detected by the United States Geological Survey as a seismic event and considered one of the most powerful non-nuclear explosions on record. For 2 months now, Lebanon has been also in a war situation. Since the start of the war, 13,976 Israeli attacks have targeted areas and individuals in Lebanon, and as we speak, Beirut is being bombarded right now in the southern suburbs of Beirut, raising the toll to 3,600 killed and 15,000 wounded. The number of children killed reached 231, with more than 1,000 injured. More than 1.2 million are internally displaced, and more than 200,000 are in under-equipped shelters, many of whom have lost everything: their homes, source of income, loved ones as well. We count on your prayers. Amid this chaos, we feel a deeper calling to serve those around us, especially the most vulnerable. We have made it our mission to offer our people the hope and healing that only God can provide. At Dar Manhal, amidst this situation, we are focusing on what we do best: catering to people's spiritual needs, making available, for example, the Arabic versions of highly relevant resources, such as on your bottom right, Count Yourself Calm. Children are now going through an unimaginable trauma with big emotions they might not fully understand. We are distributing our newest children's publication among children's ministry workers who are responding on the field. This book is a unique resource that integrates psychology with the Word of God, helping children to bring their big emotions to their big and loving God. How to Be Born Again by Billy Graham. This is our maybe third or fourth print run. Now more than ever, we see hearts longing for hope and meaning. Many are experiencing profound feelings of abandonment and hopelessness. Our goal is to share the good news of Jesus through the reprint and distribution of this resource, among others. Evangelistic tracts as well that are locally written. We are printing and distributing locally written tracts through our partner churches and ministries, bringing the message of Christ's love and redemption to those in search of answers amid this crisis. In the face of war, mental health is compromised, and it's a growing concern. Many are experiencing anxiety, depression, and trauma. In response, we are creating content also on mental health awareness through social media. Our latest podcast on mental health during times of war is now live on our YouTube channel, offering practical and spiritual guidance for those struggling to cope. Despite the difficulties, we remain dedicated to publishing Christian resources to support the churches and ministries on the ground. Displaced individuals are taking refuge in schools, public centers, often without access to Wi-Fi or televisions, giving them, of course, more time for reading and reflections. Our publications can be a lifeline of hope during this time of isolation. In these moments of despair, we are reminded of this verse from Psalm 96:3, which has become one of my favorites. Publish his glorious deeds among the nations. Tell everyone about the amazing things he does. And this is what we are trying to do. We believe God is doing what he does best, redeeming a bad situation and bringing something good out of it, opening hearts to his word. Why are we continuing to spread the word of God and point people to the gospel? What's the importance and the impact of Christian publishing in the region? Because we have seen lives transformed. We have seen people come to Christ. Believers are being equipped for a steadier Christian life. And we continue to offer hope and resilience through these resources for families amidst sociocultural, political challenges, you name it. Our work aims to provide resources that nurture faith and foster a transformative understanding of the gospel. This mission is particularly vital in a region like ours, marked by social, economic, and political instability. Needless to say, our work is not without obstacles, but it is these same obstacles that help us navigate opportunities and pave the way forward by the grace of God. We come to legal restrictions and censorship. As you can see through this map, legal restrictions and censorship vary per country, depending on the level of Western influence and religion's legalism. In many nations, content deemed offensive to the dominant religion is heavily censored or banned. I don't know if you heard, but a huge explosion just is very near to us right now. It's a strike or a bombardment, I don't know, but the office just shook. For example, in Saudi Arabia and Iran, it's strictly prohibited to distribute Christian literature, while countries like Egypt and Jordan impose strict licensing requirements and subject material for approval by religious authorities. It is important to note that Dar Manhal has been participating in the Saudi Arabia Book Fair for the second year in a row with Christian living books, and this is a milestone that we have been celebrating. Thanks, of course, to our partners in the book fairs over there. Because as Christian publishers, we cannot bluntly participate in book fairs. Concerning persecution and safety concerns for author, publishers, and distributions, of course, there are plenty. Authors face social pressures and restrictions, but in Lebanon, we are privileged to be working in a relatively free zone. It's open to Christian ministry work and operations. It's important to note that Christians from Muslim backgrounds still face persecution in general, but of course not as much as other Arab countries, depending on their social background. Of course, we have a lack of distribution outlet and advertisement opportunities. Publishing personnel face also persecution and safety concerns. We still need to resort to bribes and hidden methods to transport books from one country to another, and we face also logistical challenges in conflict zones. This is to give you an idea about the church planting situation in the MENA region. Openness to Christian publishing also is mirrored in the level of openness to church planting. This map gives us an idea of which areas are safer than others. If you can see Lebanon, this little tiny country. So church planting here is open, but still, I repeat that Christians from different backgrounds, believers from different backgrounds still face persecution. In most countries, it is still illegal or restricted, but we can clearly see that the entire region, as you see, it's marked with challenges for Christian activities. In other countries, of course, it's dangerous and difficult. We also navigate interfaith sensitivities. While we try to live in peace and religious tolerance, when we talk about persecution, we often imagine violence. We often imagine violence, physical unsafety, abuse, hatred, and harassment. Yes, it's true. However, in Lebanon, a small country with 18 different legal religious confessions, persecution takes other forms, like, for example, the gradual but steady exodus of the young generation, of course, mainly Christians. Religion and politics are closely knit in Lebanon, causing civil tension, internal strife, which ultimately lead to corruption and intolerance. This is mirrored in the lives of the individuals, given that evangelicals, I need to go back, sorry. Okay, given that evangelicals constitute only 1% of the population in Lebanon, new believers from non-evangelical backgrounds, be it Muslims or Catholics, still face pressure from their families, leading to persecution and isolation. Therefore, while Lebanon is blessed with the freedom of worship and freedom of faith, individuals must sacrifice most of the time their communal ties and bonds with family when they give their lives to Christ and live out their faith publicly. This is all due to fake devoutness and lack of understanding of true Christian faith. Now, concerning the financial challenges, we start with limited purchasing power and funding. Of course, due to the economic instability that is affecting purchasing power, the region, of course, is devastated after these compounding economic crises, wars, instabilities. The purchase of books has become a luxury to many. And these people, of course, cannot afford to buy books. They'd rather buy bread and fuel. Readers face barriers to accessing reliable Christian literature. Many seek affordable resources, which prompts us as Dar Manhal to subsidized cost and sell at very low and discounted prices. In Lebanon alone, the currency has lost over 90% of its value, and with it, the value of people's salaries paid in Lebanese pounds. For example, an individual now whose salary, with a family, whose salary was reduced to $300, would rather buy and provide food and education rather than indulging in buying books. 80% of Lebanese households are now considered under the poverty line. Christian publishing is therefore not seen as an urgent need, as it does not address the basic needs of individuals like food, shelter, education, etc. Some donors, of course, as you know that we proceed by grants and funds, these donors would rather fund relief and education instead of giving priority to Christian resources. Also, production and distribution costs are rising by the day. Fluctuating production costs that are changing with the unstable economic situation. Western publishing houses seeking to publish their Arabic resources or their books in Arabic are opting for Arabic publishers with cheaper prices, lower quality, which is not the case with Dar Manhal Al Hayat for many reasons. We never compromise on translation or printing quality, in addition to taking into consideration the high cost of living and high labor costs. Logistics of distribution in conflict zones is still difficult, and we still try to ensure the physical security of printed material. Shipping prices are very expensive. We sometimes opt for local printing, which is more affordable than shipping. Also, it's not always allowed in some countries, so we proceed case by case. It depends on where religious limitations are imposed. Also, storing books is an additional challenge and expense. We also deal with limited infrastructure and technological resources. Many publishing houses, including Dar Manhal Al Hayat, operate with minimal facilities, relying on overstretched and overloaded teams to manage translation, editing, production, marketing, distribution, in addition to event planning and follow-up. Despite these constraints, organizations are finding innovative ways to adapt, like us, such as leveraging digital platforms, we are going to talk about it in a bit, to reach a wider audience, and partnering with like-minded institutions to share costs and expertise. These creative solutions help us bridge gaps in infrastructure while maximizing impact as much as possible. We still find ways to persevere and continue. It's a daily process of navigating constraints while ensuring we stay true to our mission of equipping the church and spreading the gospel. Our target audience and how we adapt our content to these various audiences. We are now moving to our target audiences and outreach, as well as our approach and methods in content adaptation. Our primary audience consists of churchgoers, church leaders, parents, youth, seminary students. Our audience also consists of seekers, social media users, and the general public. In digital ministry projects, we can safely estimate the number of beneficiaries from our current social media reach and metrics. For example, our Instagram account has now over 5,000 followers with very limited paid ads and budget. Through targeted ads, we reach around more than 70,000 accounts per month. Of these accounts, around 2,400 are reached each month. They visit our account actually each month, which is huge. To narrow things down, around 1,000 accounts are engaged each month. When we talk about engagement, we talk about either liking, commenting, sharing, saving posts, and it includes also private messaging with the page for inquiries, questions, or discussions. 42% of our followers are from Libya, 27% from Lebanon, 12% from Egypt, 4% from Jordan, and 3% from Iraq and we are growing in reach. Demographically, or if we want to talk about gender, 61% of our followers are women, 39% men. Widening our horizons from printed books to audiovisual multimedia content is very important, and now even uneducated individuals can have access to our content. And it's important to note also that 43% are between the ages of 18 to 24 and 22 between the ages of 25 and 34. We seek to accompany these individuals in all stages of life. That's why from children to youth, believers of all ages, we try to cater for these people. We have a wide audience range, as I just said, which poses a challenge also in creating material that appeals to both young and older readers. To encourage local authorship, Manhal Al-Hayat actively seeks out talented local authors so we could produce culturally relevant and contextually adapted material. So we actively seek local authors who produce reliable, high-quality content that deeply resonates with the unique contexts and cultures of the Arab world, as well as the diverse age ranges. This involves identifying and nurturing writers who can effectively address the spiritual, social, and intellectual needs of the region while upholding sound theological base. And this is not easy at all. With the help of MAI in some projects, Manhal has been investing in building relationships with authors, providing them with tools, mentorship, platforms necessary to develop their works, and ensuring that these resources align with the lived experiences and challenges of Arabic-speaking communities. Recognizing the limitations of relying solely on translations of Western books, we have strategically shifted toward a cultural adaptation approach, in addition to local authorship, of course. This means that instead of directly translating Western content, we reimagine and reshape and recreate sometimes the material to fit the values, traditions, and linguistic nuances of the target audience. By integrating local idioms, cultural references, regionally relevant examples, Manhal ensures that the content is not only understandable, but deeply relatable and impactful for the local community. This approach, applied very recently with the Bible I just showed you, the biggest Bible storybook that we are releasing soon, fosters greater engagement, making Christian resources more accessible and meaningful, as I said, and allows the church in the MENA region to address issues that are specific to its proper context. This dual focus on empowering local authorship and culturally adapting global resources reflects our commitment to produce content that impacts and transforms lives. So, moving to the more optimistic part of our presentation, which is leveraging our resources to overcome these pre-mentioned various challenges. Driven by our mission to equip and empower local churches, all our work is done through local churches and in partnership with existing ministries. For example, our free distribution programs are implemented through local churches, so we distribute to churches and churches distribute to their congregations and to people who are attending this church to serve their communities, being children, individuals, or families. Even for our in-person events, we collaborate with existing organizations to expand the impact. For example, Youth for Christ, other organizations. And for our digital service providers, it's also a Christian organization, and we try to rely on partner ministries who already have the tools, the expertise, the infrastructure, the operations, and the production material. This allows us to disseminate our resources into existing social media networks, facilitating our follow-up, creating extended outreach to different community groups. We also have deep regional partnerships to amplify outreach, share resources, adapt to evolving needs. We make sure that we are connected to existing publishing groups, such, of course, as MAI, the European Community for Christian Publishing, and the Lebanese League of Christian Publishers. As for the financial solutions to our financial challenges, we always see grants and donations from various organizations and foundations while adopting the community engagement narrative as a post-publishing strategy. To address our financial challenges, we are prioritizing diversification and sustainability in funding. How? This means actively seeking grants from a variety of organizations and foundations to broaden our donor base, ensuring that the withdrawal of one donor does not disrupt our operations. For larger projects, we engage multiple donors, creating shared ownership and a stronger foundation for sustainability. We're also adopting a community engagement narrative as a post-publishing approach. We involve communities in the process, and we offer books for highly subsidized price for groups. So this helps us a bit by covering one small part of the costs and expenses through feedback loops, church partnerships, training events. We showcase how their contributions create tangible spiritual impact. This builds deeper connections with donors, inspiring ongoing support. In a climate where global crises like wars and natural disasters divert donor focus, for example, now the conflict between Israel and Gaza, the war in Ukraine, our approach is to position Christian publishing as a critical long-term solution for spiritual and psychological emotional resilience and hope, emphasizing its transformative role amidst hardships. Also, leveraging technology helps us by using digital platforms for distribution, creating multimedia experiences for users. For the past 2 years, we have been transforming, repurposing, and recreating resources beyond books into multimedia experiences, including multifaceted Instagram content, YouTube videos, podcasts, radio programs, YouVersion reading plans. It's huge work and effort, we know it, but we are enjoying it, and it is rewarding in many ways in terms of feedback and engagement. We are investing in this endeavor to optimize awareness and eventually reap spiritual results in terms of interaction and maybe sales, though the latter is not a primary objective. For us, the life cycle of a book does not end once the book is published, on the contrary, and placed on the shelves of libraries. Instead, it is a continuous journey, regenerating with every post or video. In all our projects, we publish and then repurpose the content of the books to suit various platforms. For example, from the book, we extract a 1 or 2 minute Instagram or Facebook reel, we create devotional posts, we write blogs, we host podcasts, with experts being counselors, theologians, etc., to discuss ideas and topics based on our books. The possibilities are endless and the content goes on and on. Also, ebooks and audiobooks help in this area. Making our books available in ebook and audiobook formats increases their accessibility among unreached groups and communities. Audiobooks help us reach the visually impaired, for example, allows the word of God to accompany people wherever they are in their daily lives. Also, it allows individuals who do not enjoy reading, like most people nowadays, to consume quality content that builds up their spiritual life. Most of these resources are available on our Amazon Kindle for subsidized prices, but we make some materials available for free on our website. Capacity building and training is also very important for readers, community groups, local authors, and editors. Collaborative events and workshops have been a priority for us. We regularly organize book launch events, in-person workshops, training sessions based on our book content to equip church leaders and individuals with practical tools for their spiritual growth. These events foster direct connections with our audience, enabling real-time discussions and a deeper exploration of our content. Expanding the capacity of our local authors and editors also enables us to more effectively communicate the content we disseminate. For example, the Voice for Arab Women, this 3-year project trained 36 different women from different Arab countries And this workshop and this project has been also supported by MAI. We have also hosted a training with Westminster Theological Seminary for regional Christian authors and translators and editors to unify Arabic terms and jargon in Reformed theological content. I'm sharing with you some successful initiatives for the past 2 years briefly, while eager to carry on the mission that we started 65 years ago, obviously, way before me and the new team. We have expanded the vision and more is yet to come. We have recently been implementing a 3D strategy. First, it starts with discovering. And we are basing all our initiatives on these 3Ds. The first D indicates discovering faith with our children and youth resources of different ages. This first dimension includes evangelistic resources as well, which we are working on expanding and diversifying. The second D refers to defining our small story and God's biggest story, who we are in Christ, what we ought to do while still breathing. Here falls the wide Christian living category that aims at instructing, encouraging the whole family and church unit, women, mothers, fathers, pastors, couples, leaders, etc. The third D is deepening the knowledge and understanding. We're talking here about rich, diversified academic, theological resources for pastors, leaders, theology students, and other interested parties. How we are doing this? Through 3 ways: publishing, distribution, and community engagement, as mentioned before. Why we are doing this? Because for us, each book is a ministry tool and not a mere product for sale. So some of our success stories: the Voice for Arab Women that I just mentioned earlier, the Joy in the Journey, this 2-part training opportunity that is very dear to our heart, reached more than 150 teenage girls from different backgrounds and religions, with topics around self-esteem, self-worth, about how they can develop their personal relationship with God. This training provided them with the opportunity to express through art and writing their emotions and embark on a 1-year journey of a devotional reading that we offered at the end of this training. Academic theological textbooks, as I said, this is an ongoing project in partnership with our seminary. It includes the publication of more than 20 books with different topics. They cater to the needs of theologians, pastors, seminary students, even lay believers in Middle Eastern theological institutions. This project came as a response to the scarcity of locally written theological books. The Behind Closed Doors Teens and Parents event, it was a youth leader and a parent training. It was based on the Behind Closed Doors Jessica Peck's book, A Guide to Help Parents and Teens Navigate Through Life's Toughest Issues. We organized a workshop for parents and youth leaders and teenagers themselves. And we talked about issues that we do not usually bring up in churches, like cyberbullying, vaping, suicide, sexuality, gender identity. We also published a locally written book on pornography addiction, Porndemic, analyzing the problem and searching for a vaccine, freeing minds and healing hearts. This book and training event was implemented after noticing that churches are not well equipped with the correct methodology to approach such an issue. This training event was delivered by professionals, Christian professionals, of course, pastors, psychotherapists, marriage counselors, and doctors. Through this project, we noticed the need to continue discussing taboos more openly and transparently. The object lesson training for Sunday school teachers, the French author Mathieu Perrault came to Lebanon and delivered this training. It was a very successful event. We translated his book into Arabic, La Bible expliquée pour les enfants. It was a Sunday school training, hands-on, very practical, very interactive. And we have recently launched the podcast program Book Talks. Now it has a series of 3 podcasts, one on mental health within the church, and another on mental health in times of war, and another on pornography addiction based on the book I just mentioned. And a new program on apologetics is coming soon. Also, we have 10 reading plans on new version, and we are still working on new plans and new content. And within only 6 months, we have more than 3,000 users or subscribers to these plans. Our Instagram page also is growing by the day. And here is the QR code if you'd like to take a minute or two to scan and follow us and check our Instagram page. We can share with you, of course, the platforms and all the links to our platforms later on. Now, lessons learned and best practices. The lessons are many, of course, but I will focus on a couple of points. Utilizing technology to create more outreach for our content, invest in quality service providers, production houses as available, of course, repurpose the content across multiple platforms to reach diverse audiences, collaborate with existing social structures such as local NGOs, schools, community centers, churches, etc., facilitate distribution and monitor the impact more efficiently, because we cannot do everything, we cannot be on the ground all the time. Include your audience in the publishing ministry through surveys where they can give feedback and weigh in on publishing decisions. Consider organizing in-person events. This allows us as publisher to get to know our readers, to create incentives for reading, discuss ideas and topics more deeply, and gather friends for our publishing house. As you all know, without a vision for the future, every ministry fails. In a time where books are becoming less present in people's lives and screens are dominating homes, it is important to consider how publishing houses can fit into people's daily lives. Even though the book industry is growing by 2.2% only each year, even in developing countries, sticking to traditional methods of publishing will lead to failure. Our long-term goal is to apply modern publishing trends as much as possible and techniques in order to build lifetime readers and learners. With that, we can't but mention the language barrier. This is between brackets. The majority of children and youth in many countries, especially in Lebanon, are English educated or French educated, but mostly English nowadays. They use and prefer English over Arabic in their studies, readings, and daily life. Considering publishing contextualized material in English has become paramount and will help us reach the younger generation. These trends also include investing in local authorship, as mentioned before, prioritizing user-generated content by utilizing personalized communication with our audience, relying on their feedback to inform our work through live events and workshops, and content revolved around topics that constitute pain points and address their growing needs. Well, thank you for your time. We deeply value your prayers as they sustain us in this exciting and challenging mission at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much for all that you've shared. Our chat panel is open for questions. We already have a comment and a couple of questions in here. I'll just read them to you. From Philip, he says, our church, the Brethren Church, received a free copy. A free copy of a Christian tract prepared and printed by Manhal el Hayat. We put it in I put our church address and contact numbers on it. So that's great. Good feedback there. 2 questions from Rick. One of them is, are there print-on-demand solutions available in the various countries you are distributing to in order to reduce storage and logistic costs?
Well, we wish, but till now we do not have this option because it's even way more expensive than bulk printing. So weighing on the advantages and disadvantages, we still prefer to print, let's say, 1,000 books as a first print run and store them, and let's say guarantee distribution projects also funded for the expenses, shipping costs, etc., rather than printing on demand because it's still more expensive.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, another question from Rick. Is there a growing audio book audience or market? Did you mention an Amazon distribution presence for ebook and audio resources in the MENA region?
It is still shy, but yes, we can say that it is growing. But it needs more awareness and advertisement so people or potential customers would know that our books are on Amazon Kindle as audiobooks for very cheap prices.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, we have a question. We've got a number of questions coming in here. We've got one from Tim. He says, in light of the economic crisis, it is a great strategy to use digital books and to put content on social media. How many people across the MENA and especially in Lebanon have easy access to the internet?
Well, in Lebanon, we have very easy access to internet, and almost everyone, even refugees from different backgrounds and religions, have access to internet on their mobile phones. So this is not a problem. Of course, during times of war and displacement, it is exceptional. But in general, in normal days, if we have any, people have access to internet on their mobile phones all the time.
Great. Riham here, he says print on demand is available here in Egypt, but as Dr. Sandra mentioned, there are security limitations. So just a good comment there.
Well, it's not. I think we should re-explore this. It could be a point of exploration in the near future. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Sandra. As you were looking at what kinds of materials you could translate
Yeah.
as opposed to develop originally to meet the needs, particularly of people who are traumatized, how did you go about selecting which titles you would translate as opposed to which ones you would want to have something original created?
Yes. Well, when it's something like, for example, the Bible text.
Mhm.
Okay, of course, it's translated and it's something international, so everyone could understand, of course, with maybe cultural nuances, especially for the kids, and you can try to adapt the linguistic level. But when it comes to choosing topics that we want to be culturally relevant, this is when we look for local authorship. For example, when we talk about gender identity, let's say.
Mhm.
Now we have like maybe a 20-year difference between the West and the East with the looking at or discussing or the situation regarding gender identity. So we cannot just translate a book on gender identity because the situation in the West now is
Mm.
way different from the situation in Lebanon. Gays are still persecuted, for example. Homosexuality is still not accepted by, at least publicly, 80% of the population or more. So it's still a taboo. It is a culture of shame and honor. So
Mm.
whenever topics touch base on these issues, we prefer them to be locally written. We are now also working, it's still very preliminary, on a storybook for children to address the gender identity thing, but in a very culturally sensitive and relevant approach, not very bluntly. So
Yeah.
these are the topics when we prefer local authorship versus Western materials.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, we have a few more things that have come in. Vivian says, just curious, how many people are on staff with your publishing house? You seem to accomplish a lot.
Thank you, Vivian. Well, full-timers are 7 only, and we work with freelancers such as translators, editors, and we borrow some people from the communications team, which helps all the organizations of Thimar. So we borrow them for some projects. And we have also external service providers for social media and production, of course.
That's great. Another question from Rick. Does the Amazon distribution you mentioned reach most of the MENA region or mostly just Lebanon and perhaps Egypt?
No, most of the MENA region.
Great. Comment here from Rose. She says, this has been such an insightful presentation, cheering you on as you work on the front lines of the MENA region. And then she asks, would you say that Christian publishing is self-sustaining in your region? If not, how do you hope to move towards that?
It's not very self-sustaining. We still are dependable of grants. Let's say we need to secure 90% of the project cost before starting because it's not a profit generating, it's not a business, it's not a profit generating activity. So we still depend on grants. But these partners, let's say more friends and family members of our organization, still believe in the impact of Christian publishing in the region. That's why they still sustain us. Of course, partially we can say that we sustain ourselves in some projects and in very rare cases, but especially in the last 5 years and in view of the situation, it's very hard to be self-sustained. But by the grace of God, we will continue, of course.
Another question here from Tim. He said, I found it very interesting that 60% of your social media followers are from Libya, if I understand that
Yes,
correctly.
70%. Yes,
70,
true.
okay.
Yeah.
Do you try to tailor your content to that particular audience?
Not really, because it is also hard work, already creating continuous and daily content for social media is something huge and it's so time consuming. But thank you for noting this. We might want to do it in the near future by tweaking a little bit the content to tailor the highest percentages of our users. Yes, thank you for that.
Sandra, how would you encourage our audience here as they continue in their writing, editing, and publishing efforts?
Yeah, well, I can only say keep going. Christian publishing is a beacon of hope and peace amidst the various challenges and issues we are facing, all of us in the MENA region. Remember, always remember, and I say this to myself, first and foremost, remember it's His work, it's His ministry. We are serving Him, and He will continue encouraging these jars of clay, shaping us even when or whenever we feel the most discouraged.
Thank you, Sandra. We have one more comment that came in from Pascal. It just says, thank you, Dr. Sandra, for this very informative presentation. We support your efforts in prayers. And on that note, is there any, can you leave us with anything that we can be praying for you?
Thank you.
How can we be praying for you, Sandra?
Sorry, yes, my connection has become unstable. I didn't hear the last few words.
Yep.
So, well, please pray for peace and stability as we continue to live our normal life so we can try to serve the Lord, so we can try to serve the church and the community at large in this dire situation.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And thank you for having us, for joining us today. This webinar has been recorded. All registered participants will receive a link to the recording today, and you will be able to find the recording on the MAI YouTube channel in the near future. MAI regularly offers training in writing, editing, and publishing, both through online webinars and in-person workshops. You can learn more about our training on our website at maiglobal.org. Make sure you look out for our next webinar in English, which is scheduled for December 10th at 2 p.m. Copenhagen time or 1 p.m. UTC. Entitled How to Reduce Production Costs Using Sustainable Typesetting. Find out more at maiglobal.org/webinars. And until next time, Thank you to everyone who joined and participated with us. I'm Heather Pubels, along with our webinar producer and Director of Publisher Development, Ramon Rocha. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everyone.